Let's see what the grades are. Grayson's grades, 97.3, ESPN.com. Another big game for Jalen Hurts. And, Scott, you gave – now, it had been a rite of passage that the quarterback was getting a D or an F. This week, you gave the quarterback an A. Jalen Hurts gets an A from you.
Yeah, look, again, I really liked his composure. I liked the way that he, I liked a lot of the things he did. The negatives that I really saw were the safety can't happen. You just can't do that. You got to find number one. You should have a safety valve stay somewhere near you that you can dump it off to avoid that, which wasn't there. So that could be partly on Doug. But you cannot get intentional grounding in the end zone and go down like that early, which then started, I think, the snowball downhill a little while. Also, the 2 sacks that he took at the end of the game when they were down to the 11. And it looked like we're going to end up getting into the end zone again. You cannot take those sacks. And I give Hurts a lot of credit because, you heard him say after the game that he acknowledged he can't do those things. I heard more honesty from Jalen Hurts in the post-game interview than we've heard from Carson Wentz all season long. It was always the same thing. I got to look at the film. I got to go back and see things. I got to evaluate some of this and that. Jalen Hurts was honest. I can't take those sacks late in the game like that when we're down in the red zone. Boom, you're correct. But outside of that, I love the toughness the guy showed. Not phased, down 16-0. Never looked like he had lost himself at all in that game. He just came out, kept playing, and eventually things started going their way. I see a lot of maturity out of a young guy there, and it certainly is impressive so far.
All right, he gets an A for his play. He gets an A for all that. The next question is, if he's playing at an A level, the other guy's playing at a DF level, what kind of decision do the Eagles have to make after these 4 games? If Hurts continues to play well, is 4 games a big enough sample size to say we have made a decision and they're going to have to make a decision, but is 4 games a big enough sample size to make that decision?
Yeah, that's the big question that somebody's paid a lot more money than I am to figure out for sure. Fortunately, they got 2 more games to look at. The first 2 certainly have been impressive, and I saw steps forward from game 1 to game 2, and you don't always see that. A lot of times in the second start, there's film, other teams figure out a way to play you. Now you're going to have 2 games of film, and let's see what Dallas does. He faced the toughest defense of these 4 games he was going to face in game 1. Everything should get a little bit easier until you get to Washington. Washington's defense has been playing pretty well, and we'll see how he does in that game, especially if it means something, which, would be exciting if it did. But, you look at this, and you're right, Mike. I mean, you got to ask yourself, I think, first and foremost, do I want to go into the offseason and go into next season? So we're talking about getting through the spring, through the draft, through, the summer into training camp with these 2 guys on my team saying, fight it out. Because that is a huge distraction that we're going to hear everything about throughout this city for the next 7-8 months. And to me, I don't think that's healthy for a team. So they've got to commit to somebody in my mind. And perhaps they're going to shop both guys and see who they can get more for. I think ultimately you want to figure out who you think your guy is. You can buy 5 years of youth and a much cheaper contract with Jalen Hurts right now. Now, I know you'd end up eating some of Wentz's dead cap money here if you end up getting rid of him. But, to me, I think you got to take these next 2 games. You got to look at them, and you start feeling around and seeing what the market is. Don't forget, they also got to figure out, and perhaps they've already figured this out, Jeffrey Lurie, is Howie Roseman your guy? Is he still your guy? Is Doug still your guy? I think what we've seen here is that Doug didn't forget how to coach. I think we're seeing a quarterback that's running the offense better than the other guy did.
Well, since you brought it up, how did you personally take in the information about John Dorsey apparently being involved in this front office? Because I think that clearly ties to what they think about Howie Roseman in the Department of Player Evaluation.
Yeah, my first thought, my gut was telling me Jeffrey Lurie starting to look back at the way they had formed the structure that led to the Super Bowl in 2017. And I'm talking about like Joe Douglas being the football guy and Howie being the guy who dealt with the contracts and trades and that kind of thing. I'm wondering if maybe Lurie is looking to go back to that structure. So that would mean you're taking a little bit of power away from Howie Roseman in terms of player evaluation. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody in this city would argue with that. That to me is something. Now, is he the right guy? You could certainly have that conversation. He's got some history in the league, and perhaps we'll see if Dorsey is here longer than just as a consultant. I think there's a lot that's going to be ironed out whenever this season comes to a close, whether it's after Week 17 or after some sort of a playoff appearance. But it's going to be interesting to see where these chips fall. In my opinion, right now, I kind of think Carson's the odd man out, and Howie and Doug are still here. But whether Howie's role changes a little bit, that could remain to be seen.
All right, so you graded Doug Peterson as a B in this game. And he was another guy who was routinely in the D and F category. So was he a D or an F because he was a D or an F? Or was it that somebody was bringing him down? How did you get to the, giving him a B for yesterday's game?
Yeah, in my write-up, I kind of what I don't know, it was sort of an apology in a way, just kind of saying that I don't think Doug Peterson forgot how to call plays on offense, because what I've seen these last 2 weeks is more of a flow, more of a rhythm on offense. And that's what I was criticizing him for. One play doesn't seem to lead to another. One drive doesn't lead to another. A play from this drive doesn't seem to be setting up something else. And what I've seen these last 2 weeks is a quarterback that looks to me like he's not changing the play at the line nearly as much as Carson was. And I think that's ultimately what you could take away from this. I think Carson was changing the play an awful lot. So whatever Doug was calling, Carson was checking out of to go into something else, whatever he wanted to run perhaps. And, perhaps you need to look at that and say, well, then Doug shouldn't have given him that much freedom. With the rookie quarterback, it's pretty easy to look at the guy and say, I know what I'm doing. You run the play I've got here, and I'll give you, one play to check out of if you see something different. And I think, every now and then you'll hear Jalen Hurts yell that kill. But I feel like Carson called that out, multiple times every drive. And to me, that was changing the play and getting out of what Doug was trying to run. So to me, I like the game that Doug called yesterday. I think he's getting a feel for his quarterback, and his quarterback's getting a feel for him. And together, I'm looking forward to seeing if there's a little more progress in the third start.
Looking at your grades in the B category, a lot of defenders, Epps, Singleton, Roby Coleman. I'm a Jim Schwartzman. All right, I think he had very limited options yesterday, and for what it's worth, created a couple of turnovers. Now, there was some sloppiness involved, but you're handed a card that's hard to operate with. So overall, you got a lot of defenders in the B category. What did you think of the defense?
Yeah, I kept sitting here thinking I got to put Schwartz in, but then I kept coming back to exactly what you talked about. And I don't really know how to grade the guy, because they gave up, 30 points, 33 points. It's just, but he had no secondary. I mean, if Darius Slay was there, I would have loved to have seen how that game would have played out a little differently, perhaps. I mean, he has been beat by some grade A receivers out there, and certainly DeAndre Hopkins is that. But it would have been fun to watch. And so you look at that secondary that he had, and they did force 3 turnovers. And if you told me that defense would force 3 turnovers against Arizona, I would do the happy dance, until the rain started falling. It's not something they've done a lot this year. And they took advantage of opportunities and really took points off the board from Arizona. And I think twice turned them into 14 points, 2 touchdowns off those turnovers. So that was progress as well. And so as far as grading the defense, I found it hard to grade Jim Schwartz just because we knew he was handcuffed with a lot of the personnel. I saw a lot of fight. I mean, you saw that on the sideline. The thing that continues to frustrate me, and I know Schwartz because you saw that fire in him at times, the dead ball penalties. They have to stop committing those because it really, they took a 3rd and 8, made it a 3rd and 3 at one point. They were bailed out because then Arizona had a false start off of that as well, put it back to 3rd and 8. But there's definitely room for improvement in some places, but overall, that defense kept them in the game, and that's all you need to ask for your defense to do. And you try to take on teams like Arizona and the Saints, of course.
Scott Grayson has Grayson's grades right now at 97.3 ESPN.com. I want to get a grade 2. One guy whose name keeps coming up is Alex Singleton, and I wonder if we had talked so much about the linebackers being a problem, and moving forward. Is he a guy that they may have found something with here? Yeah,
I think that's a great point, because as I was writing his name down last night doing the grades, I thought, man, this guy has been appearing week after week, and he has been the leading tackler on the team just about every week. Now, I know that's what a linebacker is really supposed to do. I mean, the defensive line tries to take up bodies, linebacker fills the hole, stops the run. Ideally, that's what you'd like. But yeah, you talk about, some of the few positives that you could try to take out of this year. Sure, we all ripped the linebacker position, and rightfully so. They didn't have anybody proven there to start the season. But I think you did find a guy here. I think Alex Singleton, to me, you could start making future plans with. I like the way that he attacks the ball. He's always around it. The only thing that I really hope he can do a little better is learn to get better in coverage against some of these tight ends in this league, because he has, unfortunately, been burned from some of that. But he seems to have learned from it, because you don't really see him getting beat left and right like he was, in the Pittsburgh game, for example. So, I think Alex Singleton's the guy you look at and build around at that position. I think he certainly fit in well, and I like what he's done so far.
What about now, I do want to ask you, go back to Peterson real fast, because it seems like we're giving Peterson a grade based on the offense, not the decisions in terms of 4th and 21. He goes for it. He goes for 2. I don't know how much not having the holder, but if you don't have a holder and that makes you go for it on 4th and 21, I mean, that's a questionable decision.
Well, he had the ultimate built-in excuse to go for 2 when he had Hurts out there as the holder. Hey, guys, I didn't have my holder. I didn't want to take a chance on a bad snap, so I went for 2. Like, he had the perfect excuse to do it, and he didn't, which boggled my mind then once we learned that Hurts was that backup holder. Yeah, as far as game management goes, I did put in there they went for it on 4th down. They were 3 for 4 on 4th down. My biggest thing is stop getting into 4th downs. Start converting 3rd down. Make it a little bit easier on yourself to avoid those spots where, you face the opportunity to turn it over on downs and not necessarily pin somebody deep into their own end. To me, I think that, I like the aggressive Doug when he has a more solid team. And I think he feels more confident with this offense right now with Hurts. But, you can't give up field position or risk giving up field position where you give a team a short field, because as we've seen, this defense is going to give up points. So you might as well make the other team have to go the length of the field versus half the field. And some of that, I think Doug needs to realize, it's not 2017. You don't have that offense here right now. You do have an offense that is starting to move, starting to convert. Pick your spots. Be clever about it. 4th and 3 from down near the goal line, I was okay with that. And you got a touchdown out of it. But, when he was out near midfield and went for 4th down, I think he's got to be a little more selective in some of these 4th down opportunities. But yesterday, 3 out of 4, not a bad percentage on 4th down.
All right. Obviously, Grayson's grades, there's more up there at 97.3 ESPN.com. One other guy I want to bring up in Grayson's grades, which is Alshon Jeffery. And you gave him a B, and he is signed for another year, as is Deshaun Jackson, by the way, and his 21-day window is open. I think most people just feel like it's, neither one of those guys would be back next year. But has Alshon showed you enough that if, hey, we're going to take a cap hit, we might as well just keep him?
It's interesting you mentioned him, and I'm glad you did, because what I saw yesterday, and I said to myself, was, is it me, or does that guy look like he's selling out and playing harder for this quarterback than he did the other one? Because I saw him, drawing the pass interference penalties he did. He only caught 2 balls in the game, but he drew multiple PIs. And you're moving the ball down the field, whether you caught it there or whether you get that flag. So to me, that's just as productive as a catch. It may not show up in the stats, but Jeffrey made some plays yesterday. And like I said, I saw hustle, effort, energy, diving for the ball, fighting for the ball in ways that you didn't see when he was out there with Wentz earlier this season. I know he's coming back from his injury, and perhaps he's a little stronger. But that was a guy that looked to me like he was playing to be out there more. And we hadn't seen that out of him in a long time. And so to me, that was a little refreshing, at the same time, a little puzzling. But I agree with you. I mean, this team's got to get younger. And, I love Deshaun Jackson, but he's getting older. Alshon's time here, in my opinion, is come and gone. It's time to move on. But they got to find other talent to put in that place, and I don't know that they have that yet.
Well, they've had Quez Watkins got a little bit of a run yesterday. We know Hightower's around, so there are
feet?
Very fast. He could cruise.
Yeah,
man.
I thought that one play that he scored the touchdown on, I didn't get him in here because he didn't really have many other opportunities in some of that. But that, you want to give him a grade, I'd give him, an A with the opportunity he took, because that play that they gapped him that looked like that went for the touchdown, to me, I thought that play was dead as soon as he caught it. And somehow he spun out, and his speed allowed him to get a better angle than the defense was able to pick up on him. So perhaps there's something there. You got to find out in these next 2 weeks. And that's, I guess, what the Eagles are really going to try to do here. At the same time, they're competing to get into the playoffs. they've got to learn a little bit about this team and what they have coming up to figure out how they want to move forward from this season into the next one.
All right, Scott Grayson's grades here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. You can get the full list of grades right now at 973ESPN.com. Well, by the way, Grayson, do you wrap your own presents?
I get a lot of help from the wife. However, she's taught me through the years that I'm getting better and better year to year. But if it's an odd shape, no, I really can't do a good job on that, that gift.
So he gets a little help.
Okay. All right, we're all in the same boat then.
All right. Grayson, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. And we will talk to you, of course, for another edition of Grayson's Grades after the Eagles and the Cowboys. Thanks, pal.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a happy holiday to yourselves.
All right. He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.